Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then my name is Erica, and in case you don't understand my outfit, I don't either. I saw it on the website for his outfit, and it looked good on the model, but I feel like I look more like Shrek than anything, but we're just going to go with it and act like it looks good. Okay, so today I'm gonna talk a bit about Helloleesh's comeback. Now, I realize she hasn't really made a comeback because she made a comeback and then like a day or two later she deleted the video and said that she's not coming back. So in this video, I was gonna really break down her comeback video, but since she deleted it and I don't have it downloaded because I don't have YouTube Premium, but I do have some screen recordings of it, and I do have some of it locked into my memory, so I'm gonna go off of that. So one of the things I want to do in this video is I want this to not be like a shaming, attacking type video. I want this to be more of a lesson, like what can we learn from this, and why was her comeback unsuccessful. So hopefully I'll be able to do that in this video. But if you don't know who Helloleesh is, I have a bunch of videos on her, so you can go and watch one of those. But she was basically a small-ish commentary creator. I say ish because her channel is much bigger than mine. At her height, she had about 50,000 subscribers. I think she might have even had more than that, but currently she's under 50,000 because she lost a lot of subscribers due to her behavior, but she was a commentary channel who talked a lot about Gabby Hannah. Like, most of her videos were about Gabby Hannah, and she tried to make a lot of her content through the lens of social justice and sticking up for marginalized communities such as the LGBTQIA community, the Black community, and just other marginalized communities. I'm not gonna say the disabled community because she never really mentioned disability until, in my opinion, it was convenient for her. But so she tried to champion a lot of social justice issues, and now there's nothing wrong with that. But the issue was that a few months ago, it came out that she used this karaoke app called Shmoo. I don't really know how it's pronounced. I'm sorry. I don't have the app. But she had recordings of her using racial and homophobic slurs in these songs. Is my dog peeing? Mochi, are you? I don't think he's. Let's hope he's not peeing. But so she she had these recordings of her like singing the rap song Look at Me Now, which has the N-word and the F-word in it. And when I say F-word, I don't mean F-U-C-K. There's nothing wrong with saying that word, but I mean the F-A, the homophobic slur that I'm not gonna name here, and I'm sure you know what the N-word is. It is a racial slur used against black people. But so she was called out for that, and she made an apology video. Some people accepted it, some people didn't, and then there are people whom it did not affect, so they could neither accept nor reject the apology. So she made that apology, and it was all like not okay, but like it was something she was moving forward from. And then what happened was there was a fallout in her community due to her behavior within the community, and also how she was talking about like the karaoke scandal behind the scenes. Apparently she wasn't taking it as seriously behind the scenes as she was in front of the camera, so that really rubbed a lot of her moderators the wrong way, especially those who come from marginalized groups who were affected by those slurs. So a lot of people were leaving her community. It was like a mass exodus of sorts, and they were all posting their experiences and supporting each other, but denouncing Leash at the same time. So then Alicia decided to leave YouTube and only post on her Patreon, which is a lot of paying members. So it's basically like an echo chamber. But recently she decided she wants to try to delve back into the YouTube sphere, but that didn't go well since she hasn't really taken responsibility for any of the things she's accused of. And now this brings us back to the present of her most recent video that is now deleted, where she basically tried to refute all of the claims against her, but and I'm not going to say this is the main problem, because of course there are bigger issues here, but one of the most glaring issues was she never really laid out all of the claims against her. So she was originally it was supposed to be a video just for her patrons, so there are people that are more in the loop and have seen all of this unfold, but then she edited that Patreon exclusive video and posted it to her main YouTube page, but it didn't translate well because number one, it was a live stream, so it was very discombobulated and hard to follow, and like it was just like a stream of consciousness, if that makes sense. And so to a lot of people it didn't make sense because she never laid out all of the claims against her, and then so there was nothing really to refute. You know, she was refuting claims she didn't even name and didn't even explain to people. So that's one of the biggest issues with it, because if people don't know what you've been accused of and what you're trying to clear your name from, how are they supposed to make up their mind on whether they either believe you or they don't? Not I'm not gonna make a claim that she purposefully did this and purposefully did this to confuse people, but that is one way of looking at it if you're gonna look at it in like the least forgiving light. So yeah.
My dad's family, which was Black. I don't need token Black people in my life. I don't need it. They are my family. Stop. You can play the card and say, oh, well, you can be Black or have a Black dad and be racist. Fine. Play that card. But don't pretend that I need token Black people in my life. I especially don't need to hear it from people who live in areas where there are virtually no Black people, and meanwhile I live in South Georgia where the population is majority Black. I don't need any of this conversation about me tokenizing people. I don't want token.
And now I'm gonna get into the issue with tokenization. So if you don't know, Helloleesh has been accused by multiple people at this point of tokenizing people in her community that hold marginalized identities. So in this live stream, she had one of her fans, who I guess is now one of her best friends too, come on the live stream with her, and he is a trans man. And so she was basically saying things like, how can I tokenize people if this one trans man in my community does not feel tokenized? And then she also said, why would I have to tokenize Black people if my dad is Black? Which, if you don't know, sorry, I got startled. If you don't know, she was adopted by a Black man. And then she said, and also I live in Georgia, which is a very diverse state, so why in the world would I have to tokenize Black people? Here's the thing about tokenization, and I think this is a really important conversation that we need to have. It doesn't mean that you're actively seeking out people and like collecting them as, hey, this is my Black friend, this is my disabled friend, this is my Black and disabled friend. Like, it's not that people aren't collectibles, and when people use the word tokenization, they don't mean you're actively collecting people to like diversify your collection of friends or something. Like, it's not like that. Tokenization is much more about you using people as human shields when you're criticized for being harmful towards that community. For instance, when she gets called out on being racist, Alicia says, well, my dad's Black. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't absolve you of racism. That doesn't mean you weren't racist in this specific instance. Or like when people call her transphobic, she says, well, my best friend is trans. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean you weren't transphobic in this specific instance. And then of course we had the whole issue with the ableism, where she went on an ableist rant about Jimmy Snow, who is an autistic content creator. And so I actually called her out on the ableism, And in a live stream, that night or like a few days later, she's like, and what was very ironic about those claims is on the day she made those claims, I went to a trivia night with my autistic best friend. So here again, she's using an autistic person as a shield to be like, no, see, I'm not ableist. I have.
Sorry if I got a little bit fiery for you.
I have people in my life that are autistic, so clearly I'm not ableist. But that doesn't mean you can never be ableist. Like, for instance, I've called out my sister, and this isn't to like drag my sister through mud here, but I've called my sister out on some ableist things she said before, and the thing is she doesn't get to then come back to me and be like, but I'm her sister. I'm a sister of a disabled person. And it's like, yeah, but you can still harm the community with some of your beliefs and your words. And I just think she was so caught up in looking at tokenization as if she's like actively seeking out people of every identity to like use them. And it's not like that. It doesn't matter how many people in your life you have of a certain identity. You could have grown up and all of your friends be from a specific identity, but that doesn't mean that you're not using people as tokens, because then if you're called like racist or homophobic or anything, then if you say, oh, well, I grew up and I went to high school and my high school was 60% black, so I can't be racist. Like, that's not how that works. And that's tokenizing all of those people. It's not just that you have one black friend that you use as a human shield. And I mean, of course, there are people who do that, but that's not always what tokenization is. And I think that's a really important thing that we clear up here, because it seems like a lot of people, and not just Helloleesh, but a lot of people seem to not understand what tokenization means.
Like I said, ableist, microaggressor, transphobic, homophobic, racist, all the things under the sun. When, like, let's look at well, first of all, Logan and I had that conversation around like, hey, Logan saying like I was hurt by the F slur and the way that our community is really just kind of brushing that under the rug. Is that fair to say, Logan? Kind of just like, yeah. And because we had a conversation and Logan saw where I was coming from and I saw where he was coming from, we wrapped it up. We made amends with it. And because we made amends, one of these people accused Logan of trying to like grandstand or represent the entire queer and trans community, like, and by forgiving me. And that was this weird thing that was happening, is that if somebody was chastising me for that scandal, then good. But if anybody forgave me for that scandal, bad, even if they were a member of an affected community. And if they did, or if I had somebody in my community that was marginalized in any way, I was accused of tokenism. And that's not fair. Like, that's not fair to say that I'm tokenizing somebody just because I have them in my camp and because they're saying things that you don't like.
And now I'm gonna talk a bit about the conversation she was having with this friend named Logan. So like I said earlier, Logan is a trans man, and so when people accused her of being transphobic, and then Logan was like, whoa, she's not transphobic, she's my best friend, and I'm trans. Just because you're from a marginalized group does not mean you get to silence other people in that group and say, well, I didn't find it to be ableist, I didn't find it to be racist, I didn't find it to be transphobic, so therefore it's not. That's not how that sort of thing works. And this one really grinds my gears because it's something that I was guilty of for a very long time. Like, if people were saying something was ableist and I wanted to be the good disabled girl, the token disabled girl that they could hold up as the perfect little disabled girl who agrees with non-disabled people. But that was extremely harmful to my community, and it is something I have worked really hard on not doing. But the thing is when you're from a marginalized group and you say something like, well, I'm from this group and it didn't offend me, like you're invalidating those in the community who were harmed by something. And now I highly doubt Logan is going to watch this video, but to Logan, like, when people were telling you just because you're trans doesn't mean you speak for the entire trans community, I don't think people were trying to tell you you're not trans enough and you don't count. And I mean, I could be totally off base here, but I think what they meant was just because you have this identity doesn't mean it's okay for you to then be like, well, this didn't hurt me, so therefore all these people saying it hurt them, they're wrong. Like, that's harmful. And like, I get wanting to appease people and wanting to be like the good one who like keeps the peace, but that can also hurt people because, like, let's say somebody's being ableist, but it doesn't offend me in particular, and then I'm like, well, I don't really see that as ableist, and that didn't hurt me. Then it's like I'm basically taking away from the people it did hurt because I'm using my disabled identity to like put extra weight into my words when really I'm just doing that to outweigh other people in that community that it hurt. I hope that metaphor makes sense. I just made it up, so it might not. But yeah. And another thing I wanted to point out is that Alicia tried to come back swinging and debunking all these misconceptions that were being spread about her, and it was eerily similar. And I know these two things are overused to like compare people to, but to Gabby Hanna and Creepshow Art, because Gabby Hanna, right before she left the internet, she posted a series of videos basically debunking most of the negative claims put out against her, like with like Jesse Smiles and race gum. And then we had Creepshow Art, who she made a video basically slandering Emily Artful. And both Gabby, Hannah, and Creepshow Art seemed to think this would exonerate them and make people take their side. Instead of taking a step back and being a bit introspective and being like, maybe I did do something wrong. Maybe I'm not 100% in the right here. And I kind of feel like Helloleesh did that too. She just came out swinging and wanted to like swing all those claims away and be like, see, they lied here, and see, I don't tokenize people, and see, I'm not ableist. That's ridiculous. I might be autistic. Like, she was focused on defending herself more than actually wanting to learn and become better and to start doing good. I feel like she wanted to just blow all those claims away and then do what she wanted to do, which is not really a tactic that works, number one. And also, it's not a really good thing to do, because if every person who's ever done anything wrong in their entire life, if instead of taking accountability, we try to sweep all those claims away and show why they're false, instead of taking some responsibility, then it's like nobody is going to ever grow and ever learn. Another thing I wanted to add is that she used the fact that her one friend said something nice to her and said she was such a great friend a few months ago, and now is saying she was a toxic friend. And now I've said this in other videos before, I think specifically my Creepshow Art video, but people's opinions and perspectives can change over time. So using what somebody said in the past about your relationship is not really helpful, because people can then see things differently as time changes.
Saying that I'm cosplaying autism. Like, what does ableism look like if not these things? And what does transphobia look like if not these things? And what are you accusing me of? Tell me what you're accusing me of, because I would love to own up to something that I've done. I would love to. Out at the very beginning of my YouTube career. And guess what? I have made no secret of the fact that I have this big, fat, autistic crush on Gabby Hanna. And no, it's not a crush, but it is somewhat of probably a hyperfixation on her as a concept. Thank you, Jojo.
So right now I look like a mess because I just got off the treadmill, but I wanted to add that Helloleesh is saying she never purported to be autistic, and yet she constantly made jokes about having an autistic crush on Gabby Hannah, and she's constantly said she had a full-blown autistic meltdown. So that's just not true. Like, you can't like say that and then be like, I never said that. Like, you did. And I'm not saying this to say that I'm saying she's not autistic, but what I'm saying is she's pretending, or at least she doesn't remember that she said that. I don't know. And I think as a society, especially with like content creators, but even people that don't have a platform, we should all be striving to be better and to learn from our past mistakes. And again, I really hope this video did not come across as like shaming or like kicking her while she's down, because I don't want to do that. But I do think this whole situation highlights a much larger issue that is bigger than Leash, that is bigger than me, and it is something we all need to think about as human beings. And I know that took an oddly philosophical turn, I guess, and I know that's not like what philosophy is. Trust me, I'm taking a course where we're reading a lot of philosophy, and it's a lot. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you learned something, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you have not already and you would like to see more of my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.
It's not a